Hello and welcome to Romantasy Readers Podcast. My name is Nicole and I am very excited to be bringing you a new and emerging author today to have on this podcast. We have a very special author who has been working on her first novel for the last, well, it sounds like a couple of years. She's probably going to tell us about it very soon, but I want to welcome to Romantasy Readers Ivy Wilde. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
All right. Well, thank you. Now, tell us about your new book that you are releasing. You have, I think, a bit of a romantasy book that you are bringing out to the world. Tell us about it.
Yes, so Beguiled follows Talya, who is my female main character, and she's kind of living her everyday life. She lives in Colorado. She's a bartender. She's working. She has not the greatest home life, and then she makes a few friends. But then she finds out, she meets this very handsome stranger, and he kidnaps her.
Oh, no.
Um, From her perspective, she kidnaps her. From his perspective, she's actually the queen of the Seelie court, and they've been hiding her in the mortal world for the past 3 years to keep her safe because until she comes of age and can get her powers.
Oh, I love that. I'm like reading Zodiac Academy currently. So this is a very similar kind of start. We've got mortal in the mortal world and then actually secretly are a queen or a very important part of this other world. So what is this unseelie court? Is this I guess what kind of genre is this? What kind of are they humans, fae? Are they magical? What's the court about?
They are fae. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it follows the Scottish mythology about the fae with the Seelie and the unseelie court.
Mm-hmm.
I've always found it super interesting, and I read a lot about it. And when I started writing this, I was reading a modern day fairy tale by Holly Black,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been obsessed with her writing since. She is one of my like. If something comes out by her, I'm reading it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So what genre would you say is this book? Is it romantasy, fantasy, erotica? Like what would you kind of say? What does it fall into?
It is a fantasy romance. The
Mhm.
fantasy is the main plot, but it has a romance subplot.
Yeah, nice, nice. And so I guess comparable series to it, what would you say are some of this? I mean, I guess you've obviously outlined there what some of your inspirations have been, but what would you say for listeners that already might have read certain books? What would you say is maybe similar to Beguiled?
So, according to Zodiac Academy, I haven't read that though. So
Well,
I had no idea. I was like, oh, it's been on my TBR for a very long time. Um,
same.
but then, the modern day fairy tale by Holly Black, and then also, it has a little bit of ACOTAR vibes,
Hmm.
mostly because of the kidnapping. And then, but I started this before I read ACOTAR.
Hmm.
Um, and then it also has kind of Throne of Glass vibes. After
Oh,
I've
nice.
like started writing it and I was like reading these series, I was like, oh, this, very, not very similar, but like,
Yeah, same, which a lot of people will like because we love those books. And so if there's anything similar,
yes,
and for most of us, we've read all those now, and we're needing to find the next book that is going to give us the same feels that we have to that, the same feeling of falling in love, whatever that we have that we've had with Resand and Rowan and all the ones we've had in those series as well. So that's very, very exciting. So tell us, how did you start your writing journey? What was it like for you? This is obviously your first novel. Tell us about that.
so it started because I was very pregnant with my son. And I had two small children as well. My older three are all almost exactly 2 years apart, with the
Mhm.
second and third only being 19 months apart.
Wow.
And I was struggling really bad with postpartum depression and prenatal depression. And then I also found out my thyroid was acting up, which was
Oh no.
the cause of a lot of this. And I was just like drowning in motherhood. And I was
Yeah.
like, I had nothing that was myself left.
Mhm.
And I was like, I need a hobby that I can take like an hour or two a day. I can have this for myself. And
Yes.
then I sat at the computer and I was like, I have always wanted to write a book. And I just got started. Um, Looking back now, because now I have a bachelor's in creative writing and I'm working on my
Wow.
master's in creative writing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, probably should have plotted this a little better. But I just like
Now you've
started
learned how to
writing.
professionally do it.
Yes, yes. I was like, oh, when it, and huge thanks to my developmental editor because I was like, please look at this. It's a mess. I don't know what to do next. Please take it and tell me what you think. So it was just and then I would like sat down and I had the plot outline and I was just like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, amazing. I know you might have to share. I think developmental editors, like good ones, you know, what would we do without them? Like for a lot of new and independent authors, it's so important. Like it's very hard to make that jump, I think, from just starting and just going, oh, I have this idea and I want to create it, to actually then getting there. And so many different authors have different journeys. Like you've obviously, as you've been on that writing journey, you've gone and actually gone and got the professional education, got the bachelor's, which was a master's, which is amazing, by the way. Congratulations, especially with kids in
Thank
tow.
you.
That's amazing. Um, yeah, and just whatever journey it takes to get there. And I think your story about what you just said about needing a piece of time in your day for yourself, I think resonates with so many mums out there. I am a mum of 3 kids as well. And that is why all this started for me. I was drowning in just kids' sports and activities and my whole life being around them. And I realized it wasn't healthy. I realized I'd sort of lost my own identity. And I think once my youngest started going to school, I suddenly had this ability to go, I can actually do something here. I can do something that's for me. And that is when I kind of fell. I, started reading Akatar and I started reading Sarah J. Maas and Fourth Wing and that. And I fell in love with these books. And I just started to realize I wanted to do something that I had always been passionate about, which was reporting and just getting myself online. I'd always liked acting and things like that. And I'd also like storytelling, but I really haven't written anything in a extremely long time. So that's going to be a work in progress for me. But I think so many people, it's so healthy, I think. And this is one of the things that's so amazing about romantasy and reading again, that's so popular right now, because so many people are finding themselves again and finding something that's not for everyone else. It's not for your husband or your partner or your kids. It's for you, and it's something you can enjoy.
Yes, exactly. I've always loved reading, but when you have a lot of small children and you can either A, stay up way too late reading, or B, you can not read. And it's really hard sometimes to find that time.
Yeah.
I definitely commiserate with the kids' sports, but after a while I was like, I have to be here. I'm gonna bring my book. So I was like, this is my sit and read time while they are at practice.
Yeah, exactly. You can just sit in the car or sit back and they can do the sport and you can read, and best of both worlds. So
It really helped because they had the same practice schedule too, because my two daughters were doing cheer and my son was doing football. So I just had the toddler and she was in her car seat and would nap at that time. And I was just like, okay, quiet time.
amazing. And you were telling me you live in Hawaii now. So have
Yes.
you always lived in Hawaii, or is that a recent move?
No, we just moved here in September of last year. My husband's in the military, so we got orders here and I'm like, it was funny because he was supposed to be deployed for a year. And then I moved back home to Mississippi, which is where I'm originally from.
Mhm.
And we're living there for 2 months. And he's like, hey, call me. I have news. I'm like, news? What do you mean? I just moved from Colorado to Mississippi. What do you mean you have news? And he was like, we're moving. I'm like, when? And he was like, we're supposed to move in August. And I'm like, all right, so where are we going? I just moved from Colorado to Mississippi. And he's like, yeah, we're moving
Wow.
in August. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I can deal with that. Where are we going? And he was like, um, Hawaii. I'm like, what? I'm
So were
excited
you
now.
happy about that? I mean, or were you a bit sad because you were kind of like, you're from Mississippi originally?
I was a bit stressed. um, because we have two cats that are actually, inside house cats.
Hmm.
And the process to move them here is a lot. And I only had 4 months notice. I also have like children that have like some medical complexities, and we had to go through that whole process. And I was just like,
Yeah.
now that we're here, I love it. It's beautiful. I love the weather. But when I first found out, I was like, why? Why did they do this to us?
It's like, I'm not ready to uplift my life and children and cats and move to an island and have a completely different experience. I'm sure it'll be amazing though. And it's very interesting. Your husband obviously being in the military, does that, I guess, does that I mean, that's obviously a very stressful, impactful kind of job, I guess, for someone to have, and the way it impacts family, that sort of thing. I know authors such as Rebecca Yarros, her husband was from the military as well. Does that ever inspire you towards some of your writing, or do you like to like completely separate it and go, this is my escape time and it doesn't impact?
I like to separate it. I am I haven't really based any of my writing with any military experiences that I've had. Other than the setting of my book is where we were stationed. Well, the beginning setting, because obviously we weren't stationed at the Sealy Court. But we were stationed in Colorado for almost 4 years, and I loved it there. I actually got to meet Rebecca Yarros while I was living there.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, really?
yes, it was before Iron Flame came out. I got my fourth wing signed by her. She didn't even really announce the signing. I was going to see a different author signing, and
Yeah.
then we found out that Rebecca was going to be there, and I hadn't even read Fourth Wing at this point.
Oh no.
So I was there, and I'm like, obviously I'm buying this book. And then as soon as we got home, I downloaded it on Kindle and I started reading it, and I was like, and then I fell in love. I was obsessed after that. And I feel like I didn't get to fully appreciate meeting her
Yeah, you were like, "Oh,
because
nice, you're an author, sign my book." I'm not really, like, as excited as I would be if I realized, like, you probably almost caught her. Was that, like, when she was just starting to get famous, or had sort of the explosion of Fourth Wing already happened? I imagine that was still
the
early days.
explosion the explosion of Fourth Wing had happened. But I guess I wasn't like super privy to it because like I said, I hadn't read it. I just knew that it was almost impossible to get a physical copy at that point in time.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I'm here. She has physical copies. I'm going to get one and get it signed because I'm a book nerd and that is just what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and this other book, actually, I hadn't read either of the authors that I went to see, but I got both of them signed. Um,
Amazing.
I went with my book club at the time, and I was just like, I wish I had known then how obsessed I was going to be when I met her. But I absolutely loved getting to meet her. She was a fantastic person, and it was just so
Oh,
much fun.
she is. And was it a bit of a smaller event? Was there, like, lots of people there, or was it a smaller number of people at the event?
It was a smaller number of people at the event. It was actually at a library in Colorado.
Oh.
Um, and it was, I want to say there was maybe like 100 people there.
Mhm.
So
That's just such a
it was a
dream
really good
because
experience.
now she sells out entire halls and thousands of
Exactly.
people line up. So, like, she came to Melbourne last year and so I was able to go see her. And, there was easily probably 2,000 in the audience. So you're not getting that personalized experience with her anymore. So that is so special. You'll have
Exactly.
to hold that copy close and be like,
Oh,
just
I
going to
do.
take the
It
vibes
is
from this.
right behind me. I am like, I will never. I now have like Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm on my bookshelf, but the Fourth Wing is like I'm never getting rid of it ever.
No, like put it in a box, decorate it,
Yes.
keep it safe. Oh, amazing. All right, let's get back to Beguiled. Tell us about the main characters. Who have we got in this book? Who should we get excited about?
So Talia is my female main character.
Mm-hmm.
She is kind of feisty. I love a feisty female main character. She's a redhead.
Mm-hmm.
She's, had kind of a hard life. So she's a little bit hard to get to know because
Mm-hmm.
she's just very guarded.
Yeah.
And then we have Casimir and his brother Rune.
Ooh.
Um, yes, and there is a love triangle in the book. But so she gets there. I don't want to fully spoil it, but she gets there and she had already been kind of dating Casimir in the mortal world before he kidnapped her. And then he gets her back to the Sealy court and she starts remembering things. She's like, oh, okay, I have memories of you, so I don't hate you for kidnapping me now. This is my home.
Mm-hmm.
And then she also knows Rune, but she doesn't have as many memories of him because she's not interacting with him as much as she is Casimir. Um, but then we also see Rune's point of view, and when he sees her again after all these years, because he was very much in love with her when they were 17 before she lost her memories and got sent to the mortal world.
Oh, I see. Right. So she hasn't like grown up her entire childhood in the mortal world. She's only like been there for a short. She's almost had to escape the Fey world to go there after 17.
Yes, yes. So, at the age of 17, she thinks that she got into a car accident and she lost her mother and she doesn't remember anything before the car accident.
Mm-hmm.
But what actually happened is she was going to the High Kingdom for court business with her parents, and she was kidnapped and tortured and lost her memories. And they're like, well, we can't keep her here with no memories while she's waiting to be put on the throne, especially now that she's a target. So they used her loss of memories to their advantage and hid her.
Yeah. 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 Oh, amazing. So how old is she now? Like what's her how old is she now that she's returned to the Unseelie court?
She is 20, about to turn 21. She turns 21, which is her coming of age and when she gets her powers and everything.
It's funny how we kind of know how it will often work out, but we still get excited every time we hear, oh, her powers are activating. It's very exciting. Okay. Um, so tell me about this world you created. So it sounds like this unseelie court. So we're potentially getting a bit of court intrigue, but tell me a bit about this kind of world, this Fey realm that you've created.
So it is divided into three main things that we're focused on right now. We have the Sealy Court, where she is the queen. She is being brought back to. She is supposed to rule. And then we have the Unseelie Court, where the king is like wanting to gather power. So he wants Talia. He wants her under his control. He wants to produce an heir that can control both courts. And yeah. And he's just, not very nice. So he's the one who is threatening her. But then
Mm-hmm.
in the Sealy court, there's like a small society of people who are like, we kind of want the Unseelie King to rule all of us. So we're going to work to overthrow her as well. And
Right.
then as they realize that this society is kind of infiltrating the Sealy court and into the palace and everything, they're like, we got to bring her home because out
Mhm.
there she's completely unprotected.
Yep.
And then we have the High Kingdom, which we only hear about in this book, but we'll hear more about in the next installment. That kind of rules over both the Sealy and Unseelie court.
Ooh. And so, and obviously, say if it's giving too much away, but are we able to find out where Rune and Casimir are from? Are they from the Sealy or Unseelie court?
They are from the Sealy.
Okay, okay. And so it sounds like this king of the Unseelie court is possibly the villain. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes, yes, he is the villain.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, that sounds very exciting. And it sounds like, so how many books are you planning for this series to be? How many books will it potentially entail?
It is technically going to be a duet, so 2 books.
Mm-hmm.
But in December, there's going to be a fun little, like, bridging book that's like a solstice novella,
Ah,
where they are going to the High Kingdom, and it's kind of like a bridge, but it's not going to be a full installment, if that makes sense.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, that's amazing. I love a little novella. It just, yeah, it just gives you a little bit extra, and it just often, it's just a really nice way, and it keeps readers really engaged. I think if you, because sometimes there is a long wait between one book and the next, and that can be really challenging for readers because you sometimes get into a series or into a novel, and then we have to wait such a long time. You get distracted with other novels, and it's very easy to get lost. So I think it's great to have those novellas in there just to keep readers engaged, keep us wanting more, and something to fill the void while we're waiting for the next book. So, what would you say makes this novel stand out? What about it will make readers or listeners go out and grab a copy?
Okay, so while a lot of the Fae books have fated mates in them, not many of them have fated mates where she's actively falling in love with someone else and has no idea that this person is her mate. Um, so we have him, and he's very grumpy about it, but he's like, he realizes that she is his mate, and he's just like, no, no, no. And he's very grumpy, keeping his distance. He's kind of, very standoffish with her, but he's also like, in charge of training her to become the
Oh
queen.
no, what a shame. That's terrible.
Right. So he is just like, and then there's pining because he's standing by and having to watch her fall in love with someone else. And he's like, I can't, do anything about it because she is betrothed. She's going to be queen. I am just, there's nothing I can do here.
Oh my gosh, like that sounds so much like my favorite tropes. First of all, I'm not opposed to a love triangle. I'm quite partial to a love triangle. I think my favorite trope is when they fall for the wrong one before they fall for the right one. Like that is I think every time I will fall for that every time. I love when she's falling for the wrong guy and you're thinking, no, you need to go this other one. Can't you tell that he's the one you're meant to be with? That just gets me all sorts of riled up. I get very, very overwhelmed and excited. And it sounds like there'll be some forced proximity and a few things like that. A lot of things us romantasy girlies absolutely love.
Yes, yes, there is a lot of that. There's enemies to lovers, forced proximity, kind of a forbidden love because she's like, she can't figure out why she's so drawn to him, especially because he's kind of a jerk to her because he's just
Mm-hmm.
like keeping his distance. But he's also, making her run and learn to fight with a sword. Um, and then she's like having this fun and playful relationship with the other person, and it's I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Also, it sounds like the
My next
relationships are
child
very
is about to
different.
come
Like
in.
one's very serious and he's trying to make her better and he's trying to make her stronger and he's challenging her. And then the other one you just outlined is sort of fun and she's probably not having to worry about things too much. It's all light, but it's not real, maybe necessarily. So that's pretty exciting. All right, so tell us about the romance. Is there spice in this book? What if you do have a chili rating? What would you kind of rate it? Or do you prioritize romance versus sort of spice in your books?
So there is some spice in it. I would say about a 2.5 to 3. There's a couple of scenes. It's not a ton. But it does focus a lot on the romance and the fantasy aspect more than the spice. It is open door though. So it's open door, 2.5 to 3 chili pepper rating.
Nice, nice, nice. And I think that's good. And I think I've just been talking to like my co-host and some of my other Bookstagram friends about spice, and particularly I'm reading Zodiac Academy currently. And in that, they start with not a lot of spice. And as you go through the books, that increases. And I think that that's often the case with romance and fantasy and romantasy because you need to build those connections. You need to build that up. I think we all like a bit of a slow burn as well. So as much as we want the spice and we want all that, it needs to happen at the right time. If it happens too quickly, you haven't earned it. And I think part of that journey is getting to the point where you earn that and it's part of the character's journey. What are your thoughts on that? Is that kind of how you've aimed that coming into the story?
Yes, I agree completely because I feel like for me, it's really important to watch them build these relationships and kind of build the connections. And then you also, it makes less sense for me in a plot if you're like, oh, hey, I just met you, and now, you know, spice scene. So for me, it was like very important for them to go through all of this and then get to the spicy elements.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So going back to, I guess, your writing journey and writing this book, what did you find were some of the hardest scenes to write and what were some of the easiest scenes to write?
So some of the easiest scenes to write were the training scenes with the banter and the sword fighting and the tension.
Mhm.
Um, I will say the hardest, there is one death scene of one of my characters without
Yeah.
like giving away who exactly it is. One of my mainish characters passes away. And then also I really struggled with the spicy scenes. Um, because I read it and obviously I have 4 children. So I'm not like,
You're experienced, yes.
yeah, so but I was sitting here trying to write it and I was blushing trying to write this and I'm just like, what is wrong with me? Why am I blushing right now?
I think it's one thing, isn't
Um,
it, to like read it in your own private time, but then to actually creatively write it and then maybe even know, oh, everyone's gonna know this is from me. Like this is my this is my spice. This is my creation. It's
yes.
probably a very different experience.
I think that might be what it is, but I was sitting there like typing, and then my developmental editor was like, "Were you uncomfortable writing these? Because I can tell." I was like, "Yes, yes, I was." She like gave me some tips on how to make it better, and I was like, "Yeah, I know." I was just like, I was just trying to get through it at that point, and then I went back and I was like, "Okay, let's develop this some more." And
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a funny story. I was sitting here editing at my desk, and I had some maintenance guys over to think my garage door got broken somehow. Probably one of my children.
Yeah.
But I was like sitting here and I Googled, I'm like, how to write a good sex scene. And then I was like sitting here reading it and I was very like lost in this article. And then
The
one of the
detail,
maintenance guys like walked right behind me and I was like, nope, nope.
yeah.
Uh, I was like, I'm sorry. I don't
I
think
had
he saw
something
anything,
similar
but I was like,
yesterday, right? This is like, I really shouldn't have done this, but I did it right. 'Cause I go for jogs and I normally have like my AirPods, that I put in, but they'd run out of battery. And I'm listening to Zodiac Academy, which is pretty spicy. Okay. It's pretty spicy. And it's, yeah, like you never know when it's going to shift. 1 minute you're talking about fantasy world, next thing it's spice. But I was going for a jog and I really wanted to listen to it. And it's like, no one's around. So I'm just playing it like just the audio in the vicinity. And every time I'd have to see someone coming the other direction, I was like, I'd have to pause it, run past, make sure there's a decent amount of space, and okay, I can start playing again. Because I was like, I don't want to listen to music. I want to listen to my book. And that's like, I don't care. I'm like,
I I love listening to books when I am working out because I feel like I get like lost into the story
yeah.
and then
And I
the
forget what I'm
stair
doing.
stepper does not feel as bad.
Exactly. Exactly. It doesn't hurt as much. I'm not suffering as much because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So I'm not sorry.
Yes.
I'm not sorry that I did it.
I'm
um,
I listen to books and then I read books. So I have like a series that I'm listening to and then I have a book that I'm reading. But my listening is for my commute and for obviously after I've dropped off the bigger children. Um, then I have a book that I'm reading.
Yes, yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. All right. So if Beguiled was turned into a movie, who would be your dream cast? Do you have anyone in mind as to who you would cast as these characters?
I do, yes. So I'm probably going to age myself a little bit with this because these were like some of my favorite actors, but um the actor Ian Somerhalder for Rune,
Oh, yes.
that plays Damon from the Vampire Diaries. He
Yes,
just
yes.
he is who I picture when I am writing Rune. And then
Amazing.
for Casimir, it's Henry Cavill, but in his kind of like
Witcher
Witcher.
era.
Yes, yes. And then for my female main character, Alexandra Daddario,
Oh
um,
yeah, she's stunning.
she is beautiful and but with red hair. But her eyes is what
Yes.
obviously what she's very known for and what really gets me. And I'm just like, yes, she is who I picture, but with red hair.
Yes, yes, yes. You have literally just pointed out some of my favorite. And I'm the same as you. I feel like some of the best actors they're all aging out just slightly at this point, and maybe that's just our age or whatever, but to me we haven't really had amazing replacements. Henry Cavill is still the best MMC. We can probably like he's literally just almost everyone. So, and then I love Ian
Yes.
Somerhalder. He's your kind of devilish, morally grey. Oh, love him so much.
Yes,
That's
me too.
very exciting. So, do you have any favorite sort of standout lines or anything that you're able to share from your book? Anything that might inspire people a little bit?
Okay, so some lines that I have that I feel really stand out or were my favorites. The first one is I will bow only to you, my queen. And I don't want to go into who said them because it kind of gives away the ending a little bit of the love triangle and the
Yeah, we can't, we don't want to give away spoilers. We want it to be a surprise. We need to keep the surprise and the illusion with the love triangle. Yes.
and then the other one is even though she suffered, especially because she suffered, it made her fierce. It doesn't change the fact that I want to find whoever forced her to harden and rip them limb from limb.
Ooh. Very exciting. Sounds good. Sounds good. As I say, it sounds like particularly for romantasy readers, which are majority of who listen to our podcast, this has a lot of the pieces that we love. As I say, would you say it's got an enemies to lovers? Has it got any enemies to lovers, or is it more got a? It's more love triangle.
It's both.
Mhm.
Because she has the fun, easy relationship where she is actively dating him and she's just like, this could be my happily ever after.
Mhm.
But then she keeps feeling drawn to the other guy, and she's like, he kind of says something to that she overhears, and he's like, the only feelings I have towards her are that of she's my queen, and I'm trying to prepare her. And it stings her, but she doesn't quite understand why she's so upset by this. And then after
Mhm.
she hears this, she actively throws herself into this other relationship, and she's like, okay,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. And I think for everyone that loves the idea of fated mates, but maybe also exploring that and challenging that and sort of saying, is it the right kind of relationship? It sounds like there's a lot of sort of forced proximity. I say a lot of the tropes that we really, really love to see. I'm very, very excited to read this book. So tell us a little bit about, so you've sort of outlined that there is some magic in this world, I believe. Can you tell us a bit about sort of the magic system in this world?
so their main powers is based on elements. There's
Mm-hmm.
ice, there's wind, there's fire, but then they also have a general magic of like glamour where they can make things appear to be what they're not. And then they also a few of them have the power of beguilement where they can give out these calming feelings and, control the feelings of those around them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great, great. And is that a little bit towards, I guess, what the big sort of arc or the big kind of, I guess, angst is going to be in this world? I guess what's sort of the big pull in this? Is it that Talia's life is in danger and they're needing to protect or needing to propel her up to become the queen she's meant to be? I guess what's sort of the angst there in that journey that's going to make it really challenging for her?
Yes. So she's obviously having to figure out how to manage in this brand new world when she's like in her until she gets most of her memories back. She's like, I'm just a bartender from Colorado. I don't know what is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know it seems like there's a little bit of a age discrepancy with she's only 20, but she's a bartender. She got a fake ID when she was
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
younger, and because she is like, I need a job, and it goes back to her, difficult home life. And she started out as a waitress, and then a bartending position opened, and she's like, oh yes, I can make more money here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then so her life is in danger. She gets here, and she has one person who's like just trying to protect her, keeping things from her, like keeping her out of the loop. And there's murders actively happening in the palace of girls and women that look like her.
Oh.
And then she doesn't find out about this until the after the second one. And
Mm-hmm.
then after she finds out about these murders, she's like, why are you keeping this from me? If someone's going around murdering people that look like me, I should probably be aware.
Yeah.
But she also has like a guard, and then the other one is trying to train her and teach her how to use her powers and teach her how to fight and
To
kind of
protect
like bring
herself.
back the warrior queen that she's meant to be.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So tell us a bit about, I guess you went into a little bit about who the possible villain is. And obviously, if it's too much of a spoiler, you don't have to say too much, but can you tell us a bit about the villains in this story, or that we are maybe going to see, and the impact they might be having for Talia and the world?
So, the Unseelie King is the main antagonist, obviously, because he's trying to kidnap her. He's like, I want control of her. He's the reason why she doesn't have the memories. But then there is someone that's like in her circle that ends up betraying her and being a part of the plot of the Unseelie King.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are the kind of light antagonism is, keeping details from her and then pretending to be something they're not in the mortal world, and then she gets here and she's like, you lied to me. How am I supposed to trust you after this? So it kind of like mini angst versus the main antagonist arc is
Yes.
that she's in danger. She's trying to escape from the Unseelie King, and the Unseelie King is just like relentless in pursuing her. And there's also
Yeah.
a prophecy that says she's supposed to be the one that brings peace to the Seelie and Unseelie courts.
Ooh, very exciting. Very exciting. So, obviously, it sounds like it's going to be a very exciting book that I think a lot of romantasy readers will love. But where to next? So I guess you outlined a little bit that you're planning for this to be a duology with potentially a novella in between. Is that the main plan for future book plans? Have you got any other books you're planning to do, or is this going to be your main focus this series?
So I have the Solstice novella, and I have the plot outline for book 1.5 and book 2. But I'm also working on another novel that is not Fae. It's called Witching Hour. It's like Witchy Academy. They fight demons. They're being trained to fight demons, and she's in this competition to become part of the Grand Coven, which is like their head coven.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
she's working towards like she's a legacy. So her mother is part of the Grand Coven, and now she is competing for the right to be in it. And it's just she it's not done yet.
Yeah. But no, it sounds like it's going to be exciting. It's still going to be, I guess, still in somewhat of a fantasy genre, but more of a witch kind of focus. Would that be kind of modern world or fantasy world, or still undecided at this stage?
It's modern world, but I would call it urban fantasy
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she's in the everyday world, but it's like a hidden part of the everyday world that mortals don't see. And then there's also the demons and the um it is also and I have a thing for enemies to lovers if you can't tell. But it is also
Yeah. Fine.
it is also enemies to lovers and kind of like a forbidden romance because it's like her mentor that she's ends up falling for,
Yeah.
and it's it is also fantasy romance. I think it would be paranormal romance. is
Yeah,
what it's considered. There are
it's
so many
really
different
cool.
genres out there.
I know, but you just sort of like whether it's modern world. And so Beguiled, obviously when she's in the human world, it's sort of modern. What's the Unseelie world like? Is that more of a historical sort of world that we might typically see in Akatar, that sort of thing, or is it more
Yes.
modern? How have
Yes.
you built that?
Sorry. Yeah, it's more what you would see in Akatar with
Mhm.
there's no technology, there's not like modern day things there. Her cell phone doesn't work anymore. Um, so it's more set in a fantasy setting
Yeah,
versus in
yeah.
the modern world.
Yeah, nice. Which I kind of like. So I think that always adds to the magical element and helps you feel more. I don't know. It just always adds more. I find, I know for me, I always love them when they kind of have a bit more of that historical. Not that I do always appreciate when they still manage to get modern enough to figure out the plumbing and that sort of thing. But that we sort of still have those classical aspects so that we can enjoy. I don't know, it allows the magic to have more of a power and importance, I think, in the worlds and things like that compared to some of the urban, more modern fantasies. So, when is the book releasing and how can listeners get their hands on a copy?
So, the ebook is actually already out. But then
Mhm.
paperbacks will be following on April 15th.
Mhm.
Um, they're going to be on Amazon and it is also available on Kindle Unlimited.
Amazing, amazing. So can people get on to Kindle Unlimited and get that now, or is it still, or is that coming out at the same time as the physical copies?
They can get on and get it now. I Something messed up when I was trying to do pre-orders and I was like, I have all of this marketing planned, so I'm going to go ahead and release the copy and let so they have access and then I will keep my original release date for the physical copies.
Nice, nice. And I have to ask, because of course some of our listeners might be indie authors themselves that are thinking about releasing their own books. What do you have one piece of advice for them? What's something you found that has really helped you to get to this point where you've got a real book that's finished, you're releasing it? What's maybe one piece of advice you have for other indie authors?
To really find an editor that can help you develop your own ideas without taking over your voice.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Oh, well, very exciting. Really good luck. I can't wait till April 15th when we can get our hands on Beguiled. So, as you said, it's already available on Kindle Unlimited. I'm sure a lot of you have access to that, but also you may be able to get your hands on a copy. I'm guessing that's mainly in the US. Is that right? Anything different for like internationals? Would it be available on Amazon or something like that if anyone wants to get a physical copy that's international?
It would be on Amazon, yes.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. All right, well, we're going to get into a bit of a fun part of the podcast now, which is our rapid fire questions. So we ask a series of questions to all of our authors. Are you happy for to answer some of my rapid fire questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the aim of this game is just to answer as quickly as possible. You are allowed to elaborate if you want to explain your thinking, but try and go quickly so you don't have too much time to like you have to try and answer just off the top of your head. Okay, ready.
Gotcha.
What is your favorite type of MMC? Hero, morally grey, or a villain?
Morally great.
Good choice. Do you like a happy ending where everyone lives happily ever after, or a tragic ending that breaks the reader's soul into a million pieces?
Happily tragic?
Happily tragic. Okay, you might have to explain.
So like it's the happy ending that wouldn't have been able to happen without some tragedy to get there.
Yep. No, 100% behind that. That is absolutely, I would feel exactly the same way. Do you prefer a magical FMC with no physical strength or a physically strong FMC with no magic?
Magical.
Mm-hmm. And is that just because there's more you can do with the magic? What would be your reason behind that?
Um, I like that they can still be, delicate and but still be, you know, powerful.
Powerful.
I like that mixture of powerful and still delicate.
Yes, yes. Okay. What in your opinion is the ultimate magic a character can have? What would be your ultimate magical power? Like if you could have one, or you could give one to your character, what do you think is the best kind of magic they could have?
Ooh, that's a really hard one. In my book specifically, I would say the beguilement that I talked about a little bit, where they
Mhm.
can, influence the emotions of those around them.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, that can definitely, when you can impact how people feel about things, you can really change the game in so many ways, can't you? And even the
Yes.
strongest characters, you can make them terrified, you can make them sad or scared, whatever it might be. So it could definitely be a very strong power. What are your ultimate MMC physical looks? Do you like an MMC that's tall, dark, and rugged, or blonde, chiseled with piercing blue eyes?
Tall, dark, and rugged.
I think there's very few people that have ever actually chosen the blonde option with that one. Like, I think we're all just like, yeah, Henry Cavill, except maybe for the exception of Faye Blonde. I feel like Faye Blonde, like Rowan Blonde or something, is maybe the one exception to the rule.
Yes, exactly. I don't know what it is about the tall, dark, and rugged that just has us in a chokehold.
Exactly, exactly. All right. If you could be someone from one of your books for one day, who would you be and why?
I would probably be Talia
Mm-hmm.
because
And
um she gets to, come into her own and gain this confidence that she didn't have previously.
yes, yes. And she gets to be part of this love triangle that she's potentially going to get thrown into, which sounds so terrible, between Ian Somerhalder and Henry Cavill. So I
Yes, exactly.
feel really sorry for her about that.
No one would ever want to be in that position ever.
No, no, not at all. Okay, what is your favorite thing about the world you've created?
My favorite thing is that it is based on the Scottish mythology because a lot of my ancestry is Scottish, and I found that out a few years ago, and I got really into the research of it, and
Oh,
that is
amazing.
probably my favorite thing about it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I've got a little bit of Scottish mixed in there with a few other things. But yeah, it is a really amazing. And I don't know if you've ever been to Scotland, but it's such a magical kind of, I mean, it's very cold and everything, but the land itself is really quite mystical and magical, especially if you go right up north. I've only been once, but it was pretty amazing.
I have not been, but it is definitely on my bucket list of places I want to travel. I know we while we're living in Hawaii, two of our like places we want to travel are Japan and Australia because just flying there from here is easier
Easier.
than flying from the mainland.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And like, oh, well, both places are amazing. Obviously, Australia is very, I guess it has similarities to the US. We're just it's yeah, it's I don't know. I would say personally it's kind of boring, but we have a particular countryside. I think nature wise, there's a very unique nature to Australia and that. And then Japan is amazing. I went there I think 2 years ago, and it's beautiful. Very busy now with tourists because a lot of people go there, but just the whole culture shock, whole just different world, different planet. You just get thrown into it. It's really amazing.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that because one thing I'm really enjoying about living in Hawaii is that my children go to a local elementary school versus like a military elementary school. So they're
Wow.
getting to experience the culture of Hawaii a lot more closely than they would say if they went to we live technically in military housing, but we don't live on the military base.
Yes.
So they're going to a school with a lot of local children, and I love that they're getting to experience that.
Yeah. And how are you finding like the Hawaii culture and that living there? Like, what's that been like for you?
It is, I really am enjoying it. The food is amazing. We've
Hmm.
found quite a few like local places to eat that are delicious, and I love everyone has been super friendly that I've encountered so far.
Yep.
And then we haven't gotten to explore a whole lot yet because, like I said, we just moved here in September, and then there was the getting the children enrolled in the school, and then it's process. And then we
Yeah.
came in the winter time, so we couldn't really swim because the beaches get angry in the winter time. So I'm like, Yeah, we're gonna wait until it is happier waters.
Wow. So what happens? Does it just get really rough in winter, or is there storms, or what happens?
The waves get really big because that's when they have most of the like surfing competitions on the North Shore is when during winter because the waves get super high. And we recently had something called the eddy where it only happens if the waves are above 40 feet.
Oh, oh my God.
I know. I was like,
Not that Australians can talk. We just had a cyclone up the top of Australia around the Gold Coast, which is a really typical holiday destination here in Australia. And it's like there has not been a cyclone there in 50 years. It's quite low for where cyclones normally hit. It's normally much higher up the top. I live down the bottom of Australia in Melbourne, so we have colder weather down here. Not that it's summer right now, but they up in the Gold Coast, they were so excited. Heap of the surfers were going out like surfing on these enormous cyclone waves, and we are all just like, "You guys are insane! Like, who does that?
that
Who sees a cyclone coming and goes, or hurricane and goes, oh hey, let's just surf these waves? Yeah,
not me. I am not
no,
a strong swimmer.
me either. Well, I can swim, but yeah, open water waves, like I value my life. I'm, no, thank you. I will just sit back and be safe.
It's really funny because
Okay.
like my top 5 fears is like the ocean, flying, and like well, 3 out of my top 5 and chickens. And I am now on
Chicken.
an yes, I don't it's like a traumatic childhood experience.
Oh,
I do not I'm getting over it because our neighborhood is just swarmed with chickens. There
oh
are chickens
no.
everywhere. Um and also I'm surrounded by the ocean and
Yeah,
I don't
and you have no
oh,
choice
and
but to
sharks.
fly.
Yes, no choice but to fly here. And I'm also terrified of sharks, even though I know it's a completely like illogical fear because I don't really go in the ocean. But
Mhm.
sharks terrify me, but also
Mhm.
fascinate me. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the biggest thing is I'm surrounded by chickens on a daily basis. They're in my yard, they're on my porch. Um, and then my teenagers started feeding them.
Oh no.
So now like every time one of us steps outside, they just like swarm our yard and I'm just like,
You're
okay
just living
then.
a nightmare. Oh, I'm
Yep.
I'm just seeing like a future book where there's this like swarm of evil chickens or something that you just throw in as your own personal little like, this is my trauma and I need people to understand my trauma, so I'm gonna write about it so you can be like, there's these evil feral chickens and this is what they're doing and this is why I hate chickens.
That is a fantastic idea. I've always said that like chickens are evil, and now I just need a book to. I could
Yeah,
probably fit it into Witching
yeah.
Hour somewhere.
Well,
She faces a swarm of
that's
evil
it. Some
demon
evil
chickens.
possessed chickens. Like, look, it's like they're such an innocent thing, really. But then I could also see how, especially swarms of them, could be kind of scary. Even though it's not something I would think of off the top of my head, I could totally see how you could turn that into something that could actually be quite scary. So, yeah,
Especially
yeah.
when you see their faces. They look like little dinosaurs. Like they're terrifying. I don't know why, but for me,
Oh,
chickens are terrifying.
yeah, yeah. Well, we have like kookaburras. Like they're really cute, right? Kookaburras. They're these Australian birds and they make this particular laughing kind of sound. Anyway, like we don't really have them down here in Melbourne, but they're up in Queensland. And I was up there when I was like 20 and I was on an island and they had these kookaburras. And I'm like, oh look, they're so sweet. And there was like 4 of them all placed equally around us and we had food. And then all of a sudden, they've all flown in together and attacked our food and basically stolen our food. And I'm like, these things are evil. I'm like, God, these birds are vicious. Like they're
That
fluffy
was
and
a
cute, but they're absolutely vicious. Like we lost our fish and chips. We were very sad. So,
that was a
but we've got
coordinated attack.
exactly. There's like the planning and manipulate the evilness behind that. I think that was really something. But I think the scariest thing in Australia is crocodiles. Like, yeah, I know we have a lot of things to be scared of in Australia. There's spiders and there's definitely a lot of really poisonous snakes, which luckily we do have them around here, but you don't see them very often in the city. Like you're just smart. You just like, you don't go near long grass, things like that. But
Yeah.
crocodiles, which are up the top of Australia, they scare me. Like they are huge and terrifying, and like we were at a zoo once and they looked at my youngest son, who is a bit of a tank, and he just would have, I swear, this thing was eyeing him off like he was lunch. He was just a delicious snack. And it was like, oh my God, those things are terrifying. I would not want to see one in real life, ever.
See, I'm from the south of the United States, near Florida, where we do have like alligators and crocodiles
Yeah.
and things like that. And I was talking, my husband's from like northern Minnesota, and I was like, yeah, we learned in school that if you come across like an alligator or a crocodile, like the best way to get away from them. He's like, why would you learn that in school? I'm like, because we live in the South.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's you kind of learn how to live with the wildlife sometimes, and
Yep.
yeah, luckily as I we don't have to deal with that too much down here. We only have just sort of snakes, and the general mentality with snakes is just stay away from long grass. That's sort of what you're taught. Just stay away from long grass, and maybe really stomp your feet, because normally if they kind of hear the stomping, they'll just stay away from you. Like I think I'm a really heavy stepper because I never see snakes, but other people will be like, oh my God, there's a snake over there in the over by that rock, and I'm like, how did I never see them? Like they never come past me. So
Yeah, we had a lot of snakes in Mississippi as well, but there's no snakes in Hawaii. I think probably the scariest thing, well, for most people besides me, the chickens are the scariest thing for me, but like we have centipedes and those are
oh,
terrifying. I'm just
mm-hmm.
like, but
Too many legs,
there's
all those legs.
I was looking up the wildlife because we went for a hike and I was like, okay, let's look at what wildlife we might experience. There's not really bears, there's not really snakes, there's spiders, but not like super bad ones. I'm like, this is a nice little break. You can go camp and hike and things without having to be too worried.
Yeah, that's a little bit similar to New Zealand. New Zealand, like they don't have anything, like they don't have the snakes, the spiders, they don't have any of the dangerous wildlife that we have. They're very, very lucky. So something we just have to live with here. But look, I've lived this long and have survived to tell the tale. So, and I have maybe seen 2 or 3 snakes in my life. So yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. All right. We have gotten completely off track. Let's get back to our rapid fire questions. Okay. What is your favorite non-bookish activity? What do you like to do when you're not writing or reading? Apart from running away from chickens.
I love to dance. I was a dancer all through high school and I still take an adult dance class.
Awesome. A particular style of dance, or do you just like sort of all sorts of dance?
I like all sorts, but the I'm taking a burlesque class because
Ooh,
it's like really helping with my self-confidence and I love it. It's so much fun.
it's beautiful, beautiful. All right. What is your favorite trope and what is your least favorite trope in Romantasy
Um,
series?
my favorite trope is probably the enemies to lovers.
Mm-hmm.
And then my least favorite is I don't I don't think I have a least favorite. I haven't read one that I'm just like, ew, that's terrible. Why would you do that? Um,
Well, that's good.
because
You don't mind like the pregnancy trope, or what are some of the
not
ones people
really.
don't like? Miscommunication.
Oh, actually, no. Miscommunication. That one drives me absolutely crazy. I'm just like, would you all just talk already?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a 30-second conversation would solve all these problems. Oh, I know that we sometimes need that, and it makes us just feral as we're just trying to, it adds to the angst. Sometimes it's done well, but sometimes it's just really, really frustrating.
Yes, I'm just like, so much of this would be solved if you would just communicate with each other.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, can you describe what you think is the scariest type of villain? Would they be sadistic, intelligent? Is it a monster chicken? It's your biggest
I
kind
would
of
say
villain.
I would probably have to say intelligent because,
Mhm,
you know, they can do a lot with that.
mhm.
I also really like to read like serial killer books and like thrillers and things like that. And the intelligent villains are just like that
Yeah, they're
is
terrifying. Yeah,
terrifying.
exactly. They're just they their ability to manipulate, and especially when they lack emotion, they've got the intelligence and they lack any kind of empathy and emotion, the real sociopath kind of personality. That's just, yeah, super, super
Yes,
scary, super terrifying. You can't reason with that. Like, I don't know. A monster is like, it's just doing what it needs to do. It needs to eat. It needs to eat souls or whatever it needs to do. But whereas a
yes,
sociopath has an intention and no emotion or anything behind it, it's definitely very, very scary. Okay. What
exactly.
is your ultimate spice level? Mild spice, medium spice, hot spice, very hot spice, so hot you're dying, but if you had to die, it's probably a good way to go.
I would say medium to hot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm I like spice. I really enjoy it. But I also don't like it. I like plot-based storylines,
Yeah.
whereas some readers are like, "Oh yeah, I will read anything as long as the spice is like top tier." And me, I'm like, mm, I have to enjoy the storyline, and then the spice is just extra.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I need the journey. I need to fall in love with the character first. Can't just be a
Yes,
really hot guy and suddenly it's happening. It's sort of, I need to build up to it. And that makes me
yes,
value it so much more. And I have occasionally read a book where I've kind of gone, I'm starting to check out here because I don't feel invested enough in the
yeah,
characters. I had an author once said that the best spice is actually adding to the growth of the character. If they're not growing through that sort of connection, it probably shouldn't be there. And I think that's pretty accurate, that I think it does need to be part of their growth journey when that happens and why it happens, that sort of thing.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Bit controversial. Is it okay to kill off a main character?
Yes.
Ooh. Do you care to elaborate? Would you say that is like literally FMC, MMC, or would you say that's more just like your kind of your side characters, but they're like very important characters in the story?
I think I think killing off a male main character could be done very well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like sometimes some of the side character deaths are necessary to the growth of the main characters.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, final question. What is the best romantic environment? Do you like a hot, humid private hideaway by a waterfall? Or do you like a wintry ice realm castle with a roaring fire and one bed? What's your preference? Do you like a hot environment or do you like an icy cold by the fire environment?
I think icy cold by the fire environment.
Mm-hmm. Is that because you're in Hawaii and it's just really nice to imagine that different kind of environment, or do you just like that anyway?
I think it's because I'm in Hawaii and it's nice to imagine the other environment. I don't have seasons here, and I came from Colorado where I had like winter and snow, and now I'm here and it's just 75 all year long, and I'm like, I miss the seasons a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. People say that. I still have a hard time believing that because where I live, it like, doesn't snow, but we do get a lot of winter, a lot of cold weather, and I think how can you like enjoy like not enjoy hot weather? But I'm sure it would eventually get too much and you would just enjoy that change. And it is nice to think about cozying up by a fire with a soft blanket and a book and that really nice
Yes.
cozy hideaway kind of thing. So
I also really like sweaters, and I can't wear them here.
that's it. That's it. No, you can't have the cute sweater, the cute romantasy sweater or something that you can wear.
Yes.
Oh, that's all my questions. So thank you so much for joining us today. Now, if anyone wants to link in with you or follow you online, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and I have a website, which is ivy-wild.com.
Amazing, amazing. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. So as I say, if you want, like, rate, review, subscribe, follow Ivy. Her book is coming out the 15th of April, but if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get a copy now. Sounds like a very exciting enemies to lovers, forced proximity, fated mates, all the things we love. So exciting to have another romantasy book. And we just love, I think on this podcast, we're really wanting to support some new and emerging authors. So many of us, we've read all the ACOTARs and the Fourth Wings and everything now. We need some new books to consider. So it's so great to support new authors. So good luck, Ivy. Thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck with your release. And we can't wait to hear more about the books to come.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.